10th grade. We're going through Our Town, Act 2, okay? So, Act 2 skips ahead, and I'm going to try to go through your questions as well. 3 years. So now we're in 1904, and the stage manager, remember, he represents kind of a timekeeper. He goes through and talks about the different things that have changed, babies being born, erosion in the dirt, things that would all normally happen anywhere. And it goes through and it talks about people nature's been contriving, and now we have people falling in love and getting married. So it goes through and it talks about the different acts. So act 1 is daily life, what they do in their daily normal lives. This act 2 is about love and marriage, and then the third one, it says, you can guess, well, after love and marriage, there's not much left after that according to this play. Then like death and eternity, what happens after you die. So it says it's July 7th, it's after high school commencement, and it says Mrs. Gibbs, Miss Webbs, they still have their garden, they're still Main Street. There's not a ton that's changed. And then it goes through and it skips ahead, and we have like Howie Newsom and Cy Crowell, who is Joe Crowell Jr.'s brother, handing out the papers. Okay. You've got them talking about the weather. You've got them talking about the big change that this whole act is about, and that you have George Gibbs, who's the greatest baseball player this town's seen in a long time, is giving up his college career and playing baseball to get married. Okay. And then, of course, they talk about the weather and things like that. All of this is meant to parallel the very first act. Okay. And then the things that are out of the norm, like them getting married, is what the focus is for this act. Okay. So they get extra milk because they're going to have family in, and we find out that it's the wedding day. So first we go into the Gibbs household, and mom and dad are sitting there and they're talking about them getting married, like George getting married, and it focuses in on how young they are. They're too young to get married. They don't know what they're doing. How are they going to make it work? All of these things are pretty stereotypical as far as parents are concerned with their children when they get married. Okay. And then, of course, they reminisce about when they got married. They felt the same way. They were nervous. How am I supposed to provide? How am I supposed to have all this responsibility? How in the world are we going to carry on a conversation for years and years when we've only spent hours together? And it also has this little section where when he was walking, and when I say he, I mean Dr. Gibbs was walking down the aisle, that he was the scaredest fella in the entire state. He thought she was beautiful, but then he's sitting there like, who is this woman? Who am I marrying? What if she's not who I think she is? All of these things are super stereotypical feelings as far as marriage is concerned. So you have um, them talk about their relationship with their kids and how it's kind of difficult. And then you have the line that's on your questions, and it says, yes, people are meant to go through life two by two. Tain't natural to be lonesome. So, yes, going through life two by two, I kind of answered this on, I think it's number 7 on your questions, how people are meant to go through life. And when it says two by two in here in our act, it applies to marriage, but in general, it just means companionship and relationship. Human beings are made for relationships. I mean, think about Adam and Eve. Eve was created for relationship. And we as Christians are drawn to the relationship we have with our Father. So literally, it just says human beings in general. Yes, it could be marriage, but it could be a friendship, a close friendship, anything like that. We're made and we desire to have a relationship with something or someone else. Okay. So you go through here and you have George come downstairs and he makes, kind of a joke like, I'm going to die soon. Only 5 more hours to live, which is when he gets married. And he decides to break the tradition of going across and seeing his soon to be wife. Okay, because remember, they're neighbors. And he goes across, and Mr. and Mrs. Webb are downstairs, and they kind of fuss at him a little bit, like, you don't want to break this tradition. And they talk about that, well, George does, that it's just superstition. It's not going to do anything. It's not really bad luck. But when you have, and they kind of point this out, a girl that's already nervous, that, I mean, both of them really are, um, why go ahead and add that extra pressure of breaking tradition? Okay. So Mrs. Webb decides to go upstairs and check on Emily, who's been sleeping, and George just can't believe that his wife would be sleeping on such an exciting day. And she does something that would be absolutely horrible, and they leave the future son in law downstairs with his soon to be father in law on the day of the wedding. Kind of awkward. And you have this awkward scene where they're kind of sipping coffee, and George doesn't really know what to say. And they talk about weddings and how they're built up, but that it's also something, a tradition, although you might not always agree with it, parts of it, it's good to respect the wedding, and you know, basically holding up a woman on a pedestal and letting her enjoy this day. And you see and hear where Mr. Webb kind of makes a hint that he thinks they're a little too young getting married. He said, I'd been to college, I'm taking a little more time to get settled, but, and then he has, there are other things that are important. And you have Mr. Webb talk about some advice that his father in law gave him, which is to start off early showing who's boss. And the best thing to do is give an order, even if you don't know why, and make sure that your wife learns to obey. And George, of course, is like, I can't do that. And Mr. Webb was like, well, that's why I took the opposite of his advice. And then he throws in there, and I've been happy ever since. Let that be a lesson to you, George. Never ask advice on personal matters. Now, is that necessarily true? No. You should, I mean, you should have trusted people that you ask their advice, but you also have to have the common sense to know when it's good advice or when it's not good advice. So they change the subject completely to something where that has nothing to do with the wedding, because the father-in-law doesn't really want to talk about it. And they talk about the chickens on his farm, and Miss Webb basically kicks George out. Emily says, good morning, she loves you, get out. Okay, so she doesn't want to break any traditions, and of course George is a little sad about that. So in comes the stage manager, and it says that as far as life, remember, he's all about time. Um, it ends, or if life goes, it's kind of like the adage, life goes by in a flash, or time flies, whatever you want to throw in there. And it's true. Okay. All of a sudden they're getting married, and he basically decides in the play to pause time and have a flashback here and talk about how in the world George and Emily got to the point of getting married. Okay. So they skip back. We have him taking over another part, which is Mr. Morgan in the drugstore. And in Greek theater, that's what your choragus would normally do, have different parts that they would take over. And you have Emily and George kind of meeting in the middle of the street. He offers to carry her books, and George brings up the fact that Emily's kind of been treating him differently lately. Okay, so Emily finds it hard to tell him, but she says, we used to be friends. I used to see you all the time, and then baseball got in the way, and all these people are talking about how you're conceited and you're stuck up. And I kind of agree, because she feels like he's not paying any attention to her anymore. And they go through and basically kind of reveal that they've been holding each other to expectations that aren't reachable. The idea of them being perfect. Okay. And then they go through, and George finds out that he kind of felt the same way. Like they were both avoiding each other. They wanted to see one another, but they didn't necessarily know how to tell that to one another. You kind of see that theme in here. The difficult conversations, even in this next one, when they're trying to tell each other how they feel about one another, they don't necessarily know how to express themselves, okay, or say the difficult things. So you have them go into the stage manager, and they get the strawberry phosphate, like an old school soda. And the stage manager goes through and talks about the newfangled things that are in town, like automobiles and things like that. And George basically tries to put Emily at ease and saying, we're celebrating that I have a friend that cares so much about me that she wants to show me my flaws and how I can be a better person. And of course, he says he's going to try to do that. And then he asks her for the favor of writing him the letter when he goes off to college. So remember, this is before he's decided to quit baseball. This is before they've got married or going to get married. Let me put it that way. So he asks her to write letters while he's gone. And for Emily, you can kind of see she's torn up about the fact that he's leaving. And she's worried if he goes off and sees new and great places that he won't care about anything here, Grover's Corners, and that'll be too ordinary for him and he won't care anymore. And in her mind, he won't care anymore about her. So, as they're discussing this, and as she says that, George basically kind of makes up his mind and says, I don't really need to go to school. I'm going to be a farmer. And he basically is telling her, without telling her, that, without literally telling her, that he's going to stay for her because he wants her. Okay? There's nothing out there. It doesn't matter how great a new place is going to be, how great new people are going to be. He doesn't care about that. He loves the ordinary and he loves the normal, which is Grover's Corner, being a farmer, and Emily. So he makes up his mind that he's going to stay with her and that school isn't that important to him. And then you have the awkward conversation where it's like, if I do change, could you? I mean, would you? And you can tell they're afraid to say it. They both feel the same way about one another, but again, the hard conversations, the difficult subjects to grasp and to talk about. I mean, revealing and opening your heart to someone is a difficult conversation. Simon Stimson is a difficult conversation to have. They dance around those, but in the end, they kind of get to where they want to be, which is together. So, in this little section, it ends with him eventually going back and he forgot his wallet and he has to pay. And stage manager ends it there. Now you know how they got together, and we're back. Time skipped ahead again. Remember, he's in charge of time, and they're getting ready for the wedding. So, literally, they're setting it up in front of your face as an audience, okay? And he decides, or he tells you that he's going to play the minister. And it says that this is a good wedding because people were made to live two by two. But there's a lot of confusion in people's minds when they're getting married. So he's kind of throwing that in there that they're going to add that into this next scene too. The confusion and the doubt that are in the two young people's mind that are getting married. And then you have one of your statements where it says, and this is on your questions, every child born into the world is nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. And I said, what does this show you about their worldview? So every child born and being a perfect human being, in your mind, you should say, who's in charge of that? And who's missing from this statement is God. In this statement, in their worldview, there is no God. And these individuals are trying to be the perfect human being, but they're doing that on their own, which is impossible. We know it's impossible without God, without Jesus dying on the sin or dying on the cross for our sins. We can't be, there's no way. Okay, without that mercy and forgiveness, we don't deserve any of it. So in your mind, you should say the missing piece is the most important piece, is that they skip over that God created human beings, not nature, and that none of us can be perfect. Okay, and it's only by His grace and mercy that we're even going to heaven. Okay, so he ends his sermon. Okay, and then we get into the section where Mrs. Webb is talking and she's so nervous for her daughter. I should have taught her this. I should have told her this about being married and what it's like. And it's all of those things you wish you would have told someone before they make such a huge jump. And at this point, it's kind of too late. And then we get into Mrs. Gibbs talking to George. And he's saying, I don't want to grow old. I don't want this responsibility. Like now he's going to have to take care of someone. How am I going to do that? I just want to go back to playing baseball where I'm carefree and I don't have to worry about this. And then you have Mr. Webb talking to Emily, like, I just want to go back to when I was your girl and I didn't have to worry about this and that. And both of them are worried that it's they're not going to be enough. And they would rather go back to their carefree life before when they didn't have to worry about this unknown step that they're taking. And then, of course, at the end, they both tell each other that they love each other. They're going to do their best for one another, which is all you can do when you're taking a big step into the unknown like this. And then you have the end where the stage manager, the minister, is going through and giving the vows, and then you have Mrs. Soames who interrupts it. Okay, so Mrs. Soames is there to represent your audience, what everyone is thinking. Oh, it's so pretty. I hope they're so happy. Oh, she looks lovely. All those generic conversations that people have in the audience, but they drown out the most important part, which is the vows, which the family and the bride and groom themselves care the most about. Okay, and then it ends and we have the 10-minute intermission, and then we have act 3 coming up with it again, which is like death and eternity, what happens after you die. Okay, what happens to you then? Okay, and that is act 2.